All right. I think today will be a short one, and so let's begin. So on our side, we finally cracked the issue with. Sorry for that. I'm probably also sick. We cracked the needle with the contract destruction issue, and through that found even more serious. Sorry for that. Even more serious one, and now it is fixed and being fixed. So we'll finally be able to update it properly, and we'll be having more correct view on the block dataset. So that's it with us for now. Hoping for a release soon. And yeah, that's it. Tina?
I'm not sure I caught that exactly.
So yeah, we had
Did you find the timestamp issue, or was some other issue?
No. That was a bit more severe issue. So the point of the issue was we have a contract. It has a destruction call. The destruction call is called, and upon destruction call, we need to, in the code of contract, transfer funds from the contract to the caller, for example. And the issue was that we had no information for the user of eSimulate that transfer actually happened. So basically the log, this additional log that we created did not appear on such particular case. And it appeared to be quite a deep rabbit hole that we digged with Lukasz quite deeply. And now we are finally finishing it up. So yeah, it's not related to time or blocks really from that side of things. It is more related to how EVM event was passed down.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks. Yeah, as for me, not a lot to report. Kilari opened a PR against Geth to add documentation for eSimulate v1. I was reviewing that, and we got that merged yesterday, so that's done. Something else was, as you guys saw, seems like Reth implemented eSimulate, and we were trying to add them to our Hive testing setup. So yeah, I wrote a patch to Hive so that they are included in the tests. And it seems like, I mean, Kilari would be the best person to comment on this, but it seems like they're not too far apart from our results. Just the structure is somewhat different. Maybe it's a bit older, but it seems like we agree on a lot of things. So that's good news.
Do you agree on hashes?
No, no, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the last thing.
That would be actually a miracle. That would be cool.
That would be a miracle, truly. Yes.
Like done it from the get-go. That would be perfect. All right. Is there any place like where we can take a look at the current diff state? Maybe we could ask Kilari when he'll get not sick and show it on the next stream or something like that, so that people are looking into what would see. All right. So any other news? There was some discussion on removed field on the chat. So could anybody remind us what was this all about?
So the issue is that the logs provided by the eth-get-logs endpoint have a field on them called removed. This only makes sense in the context of a subscription where when you have a reorg, it basically sends you log lines saying this is the log line that was removed due to the reorg, and then it's followed by log lines that are added in their place. That field doesn't really make any sense in the context of eth-call or eSimulate because you can't reorg in those cases. And so the field doesn't really make sense. But the counter argument is that it's nice when you use the same structure for multiple things, even if they're not, totally the same, if they're close enough. And so the question is do we want the structure of the log to match the ETH logs call, including the fields that don't make sense for ETH simulate? Or would you rather have ETH simulate have its own structure that is slightly different?
Would it then mean that we would have ETH simulate logs?
Yes, we already do. These are the events. Events is maybe what you're called in other mind. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And we already do have those, right? Like they're part of the response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the question is just, do we include the removed field in those or not? It would always be set to false if we did include it.
Oh. Yeah, then it's just
an API structure question.
Uh-huh.
My personal preference is to not include it, since one structure is a superset of the other. In most languages, that's pretty easy to deal with, where you just have the kind of base structure and then the other one adds fields. And so it doesn't bother me too much, but I can appreciate the argument for having them be exactly the same. Also, I think Geth may currently include the removed field, and so I think, is that true, Sina?
I believe so, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we use the same struct, the same object type as these get logs. So I think also like my slight preference is towards having the same structure, and even in the ETH simulate specs to directly reference the log type that is defined for ETH get logs. I think we should try for consistency here.
The other option would be to specify that field as an optional return field, meaning the client can decide whether to return it or not. And if it is returned, it will always be false. So we can just specify it as it's either false or missing, and they both mean the same thing. So that way, people who are implementing the other side of the API, so library authors and whatnot, know that, hey, sometimes you might get this value, and if so, you need to deal with that. Dealing with that may just mean ignoring it, which is totally fine. Or if you've got, but also sometimes you won't always get the field. So some other client may say not send it. You need to be prepared for that. And so it's basically saying, acknowledging the clients may give different results because internal implementation details and the Ethereum clients may give different results. The libraries and whatnot that are interacting with those will just need to be aware of it.
And in terms of like using it, when would be that situation that would set it to true?
So it's never set to true for ETH simulate. This is only in ETH get logs, because the way ETH get logs works, I think it's ETH get logs, it's basically a subscription. So you tell the Ethereum client, hey, anytime there's a new block, send me the logs that match this filter, if there's logs that match the filter in the new block. And it will do so every time that happens. So you, it's particularly meaningful if you're on a WebSocket connection or some persistently open connection.
Mm-hmm.
Though you can also pull. And so what happens is, excuse me, sorry. The Ethereum client sends you a log that says foo, right? And then the block that generated foo gets reorged out and it's replaced with another block. The Ethereum client will say, hey, foo was removed, so removed equals true. And then here's a log that showed up bar in the next block. And
is there a case that we can somehow have this in V2, in theory at least, so that simulation of how the block was removed or something like that?
I mean, in theory, we could add a bit of complexity. Hypothetically, what you'd want to do is you make it so when the user is giving you their the ETH simulate call and they describe the series of blocks they want, they could say, include this block and then remove that block, and then proceed with these blocks. It's a little bit of a weird case. It would be kind of useful for people being able to easily test their applications and make sure their applications work in a reorg scenario, but it's a pretty limited value, and it adds, I worry, a lot of complexity.
Is it potentially needed on L2s or something like that?
The ability to simulate reorgs, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's useful just even for regular apps. Like it's one of those things that's like kind of useful. You can imagine people doing something with it. I'm just not convinced that it's useful enough to warrant the extra complexity in Ethereum clients implementing Ethereum's ETH simulate v2.
Mm-hmm. So we have three options. We keep it in and set it always to false. We make it optional. So for example, Wrath and Nethermind cannot have them or something like that. Or we can include them in some future, for example, release and make it dependent on like actual logic. Yeah. Or am I missing something?
No, I think that's correct.
Okay, let's think with it for now.
I just typed those three options into chat.
Yay, thank you.
My order.
Hello,
Sorry?
Caleb.
I'm leaning towards having it as optional field. I think having an extra field in the object is usually not a problem for clients to deserialize. Like if you have a unused field in your JSON object in JavaScript, Go, or languages that I know of, when you're deserializing that JSON string, then it causes no problem. They just ignore that extra field. So I tend to say like it doesn't cause any issue. And I would defer it to actually to the ETH-get logs spec. I'm not sure if this is. I'm not behind my laptop right now to check this, but I'm gonna do it as soon as I'm at the keyboard to check how ETH-get logs defines the log structure. Like, is remove field included in there or not? And I would just go with that.
Yeah, let's make it optional for now. We would vote also for it. All right. So with this, I think I thank you so much, everybody. And oh, yay, you are here. Well, no problem at all. So probably if we are all out of topics, let's see each other next week.